In the year 2175, Earth stood at the brink of a new chapter in its long and storied history. The planet, once teetering on the edge of environmental collapse, had undergone a miraculous transformation. After decades of intense effort, the human race had successfully reversed the effects of climate change, harnessing clean energy in repairing the damage done to the planet. Yet, the greatest challenge was yet to come: the stars. Humanity had long gazed up at the night sky with wonder, dreaming of reaching beyond their homeworld. For centuries, space exploration had been a distant ambition, fueled by the belief that humanity was meant to roam the cosmos. But now, thanks to advancements in quantum propulsion and artificial gravity, Earth had developed the technology to make those dreams a reality. In the heart of Earth's most advanced spacefaring nation, a grand project was underway: the construction of the Etheris, the first interstellar ship capable of reaching the distant stars. The ship was a testament to human ingenuity, a colossal vessel designed not only for space travel but for the protection and survival of its crew. It was a bold undertaking, one that would take humanity far beyond the limits of the solar system. Captain Aria Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the Etheris, staring out at the vast expanse of space. Her heart swelled with pride and anticipation. She had been chosen to command this historic journey, not because she was the best pilot or the most decorated officer, but because she embodied the very spirit of humanity's new age. Aria had spent her entire career pushing the boundaries of exploration, always striving to see what lay beyond the known, and now she would be among the first to venture beyond Earth's horizon. The mission was more than just a quest for exploration, it was a symbol of humanity's resilience. Earth had already faced countless challenges: wars, pandemics, and environmental devastation. Yet, each time, humanity had adapted and overcome. Now, they stood ready to take the next step, boldly heading into the unknown. Their destination: Proxima Centauri, a star system located over 4 light-years away, and a world that might harbor the key to humanity's future. As the countdown began, Aria's mind wandered back to her childhood. She had always dreamed of exploring the stars, of seeing distant worlds and encountering civilizations that had long since passed into the annals of history. But those dreams had always seemed out of reach, just a fantasy reserved for stories and ancient myths. Now, however, they were becoming reality. "Captain Vasquez, all systems are green," came the voice of Lieutenant Markson, the ship's chief engineer. "We're ready for launch. It's time." Aria nodded, her gaze still fixed on the stars outside. She had been part of this mission from the beginning, but the enormity of what they were about to do still struck her like a lightning bolt. Humanity was stepping into the unknown, and there was no turning back. "Initiate launch sequence," she commanded. As the final preparations were made, the Etheris came alive. The hum of its engines reverberated through the ship, and the crew felt the pull of gravity as the massive vessel began its ascent from Earth's surface. The world below them shrank quickly, and within minutes, they were in the cold void of space, the blue planet receding into the distance. It was a moment of triumph, but also one of uncertainty. The crew knew that their mission was not just about reaching a distant star, but about ensuring the survival of humanity. They were setting the stage for the future, one where humanity would no longer be confined to their fragile planet. They were embarking on a journey that would take centuries, one that could shape the course of the human race for millennia to come. Aria walked briskly to the bridge, her boots clicking on the metal floors of the ship. She passed crew members at their stations, each one focused on their task, their faces a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The Etheris was designed to sustain life for decades, perhaps even centuries, but it would not be without its challenges. The vast emptiness of space had a way of testing even the most seasoned explorers. "Captain, we're entering the Oort cloud," Lieutenant Markson called out, his voice cutting through the calm atmosphere of the bridge. Aria's eyes narrowed. The Oort cloud was the last frontier before the ship could enter interstellar space. It was a vast, icy region at the edges of the solar system, full of dangers both known and unknown. No human had ever ventured this far before, but Aria had no doubt that humanity's resolve would carry them through. The ship's engines roared as they accelerated toward the unknown. The crew had done their training, and now it was time to see if they were truly ready for what lay beyond Earth's horizon. In the distance, a faint glow appeared, Proxima Centauri, their first destination. The stars beckoned, and humanity's journey had just begun. As the Aetheris ventured further into the Oort cloud, the vast expanse of space enveloped the crew in an eerie silence. Aria Vasquez stood at the helm, watching the endless abyss unfold before her eyes. The Oort cloud, a vast ring of icy objects at the edge of the solar system, stretched for light years, and it was a place few had ever dared to venture. But the Aetheris wasn't just any ship, it was humanity's answer to the stars. In the control room, the crew members moved in a synchronized dance, each one deeply focused on their assigned tasks. The ship's sensors scanned the surrounding space, mapping out potential hazards in the dark, cold stretches of the Oort cloud. Lieutenant Markson stood beside Aria, his brow furrowed as he studied the data streaming in from the ship's external sensors. "We're detecting an anomaly ahead," he said, his voice steady but tinged with concern. "Something's interfering with our sensors. It might be a gravitational anomaly or a dense cluster of ice objects we haven't catalogued yet." Aria's eyes narrowed. The Oort cloud was unpredictable, full of rogue comets and cosmic debris that could appear out of nowhere. But she had learned to trust her crew and the Aetheris' technology. They would navigate this challenge just like they had all others. "Adjust course," Aria ordered, her voice firm. "Increase speed to 1.2x. Let's avoid it and get clear of the anomaly." As the ship made a slight course correction, the crew watched intently. The Aetheris' quantum propulsion system powered up, sending the massive vessel hurtling forward with a force that made Aria's stomach tighten. It was exhilarating, but she reminded herself that this was only the beginning. The true challenges of deep space exploration lay ahead. Hours passed, and the ship steadily moved deeper into the cold, empty void. The Oort cloud, which had once seemed like an intimidating frontier, now felt like an old memory, a mere stepping stone toward the larger expanse of interstellar space. Aria could feel the collective breath of her crew held in anticipation. They had successfully navigated the cloud, and now the true unknown lay before them, the journey to Proxima Centauri. Lieutenant Markson appeared at her side once more, this time with a look of quiet pride on his face. "Captain, we've cleared the Oort cloud. We're on our way to interstellar space." Aria nodded. It felt as though the ship had crossed a threshold, leaving behind the familiar confines of the solar system and embracing the endless, uncharted cosmos. But even as the crew celebrated this small victory, Aria knew they were far from safe. Deep space was full of mysteries and dangers, many of which were yet to be discovered. Just as the crew began to settle into their routine, an alarm blared on the bridge. A deep, resonant tone echoed through the ship, signaling a major disruption. Aria's heart skipped a beat. There was no time to waste. "Report," she barked, her calm demeanor slipping for just a moment. A young officer, Lieutenant Torres, spun around in her seat. "Captain, we're picking up an unidentified signal. Its origin is far outside of known space. It's almost like a distress call, but it's not in any language we recognize. It's unnatural." The words sent a chill down Aria's spine. A distress call? In this uncharted region of space, the chances of encountering another ship were slim to none. Yet, the signal persisted, faint but unmistakable. "Put it on the screen," Aria ordered, her voice a mix of curiosity and caution. The screen flickered to life, displaying a series of cryptic symbols, pulses of light and energy that seemed to warp and distort the deeper the signal came through. It was a complex pattern, too precise to be a natural anomaly. There was intelligence behind it, but it wasn't from any civilization known to humanity. "Is it a trap?" Lieutenant Markson asked, his voice tinged with concern. "We can't know for sure," Aria replied, her mind racing. "But this could be our first real encounter with something alien. We've trained for scenarios like this, but we never expected it to come this soon." Aria turned to the navigation console. The signal was coming from a direction well beyond their intended course, almost as if it was calling them in. She felt a pull in her chest, a compulsion to investigate. It was dangerous, but this was what they had signed up for, exploring the unknown, even if it meant risking everything. "Prepare to change course," she said, her voice steady despite the rising tension in the air. "We're going to find out who, or what, sent this signal." The crew worked in swift coordination as the Aetheris shifted its course toward the source of the mysterious transmission. Every member of the crew was aware of the stakes. They were no longer just explorers on a mission, they were pioneers on the frontier of the unknown. And whatever waited ahead could be the key to humanity's future, or its doom. As the ship hurtled deeper into uncharted space, Aria's thoughts wandered to the possibility of first contact. What would they find? A new civilization, lost or hidden for millennia? A remnant of an ancient species? Or something darker, something that had waited in the void, watching and waiting for humanity to come close enough? The answers lay ahead, beyond Earth's horizon, in the depths of space. The Aetheris pressed onward, its engines humming with purpose as the crew followed the mysterious signal into the uncharted darkness. The bridge was filled with an intense focus, the officers working in perfect synchrony as Aria stood, her gaze locked on the distant stars. Despite the confidence she projected, a gnawing unease tugged at her thoughts. The unknown could be thrilling, but it was also dangerous, especially when the danger was something they couldn't fully comprehend. Approaching the signal's origin, Lieutenant Markson called out, his voice steady but edged with anticipation. "It's still faint, but getting stronger." Aria nodded, trying to mask her growing tension. "Prepare to initiate a full scan of the area. I want to know everything, objects, anomalies, anything that could pose a threat." As the ship closed in on the source of the signal, the crew could feel the weight of the moment. The signal itself seemed to pulse with a strange rhythm, like a heartbeat, a message, a warning, or perhaps an invitation. Whatever it was, they were getting closer, and soon they would face whatever lay at the center of this enigma. Suddenly, the ship's sensors pinged. The starfield ahead seemed to distort, like a ripple on the surface of water. There, nestled in the void, was an enormous object, so vast that it took several moments for the sensors to fully comprehend its scale. It wasn't a natural formation. It was metallic, shaped in an intricate, geometric pattern. It was artificial. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres said, her voice trembling slightly, "we've detected a massive structure ahead. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. It's a ship, or something close to it. But its technology is completely foreign." Aria's heart pounded in her chest. She leaned forward, staring at the screen as the enormous object grew closer. The shape was angular and almost crystalline in its construction, with layers of metallic plating that shimmered even in the dark void. The structure was dormant, drifting in the silence of space like a forgotten relic. But the pulse of the signal came from within it, emanating from deep within its core. "Is it active?" Aria asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," Markson replied, scanning the readings again. "It appears to be powered down, no life signs, no engine activity. It's been here a long time." Aria stood still, her mind racing. This wasn't just a structure. It was a piece of history, possibly from a civilization long gone. Or perhaps it was waiting for them. "Prepare for a close approach," she commanded. "We're going to investigate." As the Aetheris drew nearer to the enigmatic vessel, a cold shiver ran down the crew's spines. The structure loomed larger on the view screen, its sheer size now taking up the entirety of the forward view. It was as if they were approaching a ghost ship, a monument to a civilization that had vanished into the annals of time. The silence was oppressive, the weight of the unknown pressing on everyone aboard. "We're within range for direct communication," Lieutenant Torres said, her voice tight. "Captain, I recommend we send a probe to scan the interior." Aria hesitated. Sending a probe into the heart of the unknown could be risky, if the ship wasn't dormant, or worse, if it was some kind of trap. But the temptation to know more was too great. "Do it," Aria ordered. "We need to understand what we're dealing with." A small, autonomous probe detached from the Aetheris and drifted toward the colossal structure. It moved with precision, its cameras and sensors capturing every detail of the ancient ship. As it approached the hull, the probe's instruments picked up faint energy readings. They were low, barely detectable, but they were there. Someone, or something, had once used this vessel. The probe scanned further, sending back images of a labyrinthine structure inside, a hollowed-out core filled with technology so alien it almost defied description. Aria's breath caught as a fresh wave of data came through. The probe had uncovered something shocking, a series of dormant figures, encased in stasis pods, hidden deep within the ship's heart. They were humanoid, though their appearance was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Long, elongated limbs, pale skin that seemed almost translucent, and large eyes that glowed faintly in the darkness. "They're not human," Lieutenant Markson said, his voice filled with awe and disbelief. "This isn't just a derelict ship, it's a tomb." Aria's mind raced. These beings, whoever they were, had been traveling the stars long before humanity ever dreamt of exploring space. And now, they had found them, preserved, waiting for someone to unlock their secrets. "What do you think they were?" Lieutenant Torres asked, her voice filled with wonder. "An ancient race? A forgotten species?" "I don't know," Aria replied, her thoughts whirling. "But one thing's for sure. They were advanced, very advanced. And they're waiting for us." The mystery was far from over. What had happened to this ancient race? Where had they gone? And why had their vessel been left to drift alone, silent and untouched for eons? As the crew pondered the implications of their discovery, Aria knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. They had uncovered a piece of the vast, unknown universe, and there was no telling what would come next. The message had been sent to them, but what kind of message had it been? And were the Watchers, the mysterious beings in the stasis pods, still watching? The eerie silence of the ancient vessel wrapped around the Aetheris like a cold, unseen hand. The crew had spent hours analyzing the data transmitted by the probe, its haunting images of the dormant beings encased in stasis pods hanging over them like a dark omen. They had found something far older and more advanced than anything they had ever imagined. But with that discovery came an unsettling realization: they had disturbed something that was never meant to be awakened. "Captain, we're getting another reading," Lieutenant Markson reported, his voice taut. "The stasis pods, they're starting to activate." Aria's heart skipped a beat. She turned sharply toward Markson, her mind racing. "What does that mean? Are they alive?" The crew watched the screen as the probe's signal began to pulse with increasing intensity. At first, it seemed like a malfunction, an artifact of the ancient technology that had begun to stir. But as the data became more precise, the truth became undeniable. The stasis pods were opening, one by one. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres spoke up, her voice laced with disbelief, "the pods, they're not just opening. They're being opened from within. Whatever was inside them, it's coming to life." Aria's eyes widened. The implications were immediate and terrifying. The beings in those pods, whatever they were, had been frozen in time for millennia. What would they be like now? How would they react to the presence of humans after so long in isolation? "Shut down the probe," Aria commanded, her voice calm but filled with a steely resolve. "We need to control this. All crew, prepare for immediate quarantine procedures. We don't know what we're dealing with yet." As the probe's transmission ceased, the Aetheris' systems hummed with activity. The bridge officers worked quickly, initiating the quarantine protocols, sealing off key sections of the ship. But despite their swift action, a feeling of inevitability gripped the crew. They had made contact. The Watchers were no longer in stasis. And they would soon be face to face with the unknown. Hours passed in tense silence as the Aetheris held its position near the ancient vessel. On the bridge, Aria and her crew monitored the unfolding situation with unease, waiting for any sign of movement. Meanwhile, the stasis pods continued to open, and from within them, the figures began to stir. At long last, a transmission from the ancient ship came through, faint at first, but growing stronger. it wasn't a distress signal or a simple communication. It was a series of rhythmic pulses, like a heartbeat, but somehow more complex, too structured to be natural. The sound was deliberate. They were trying to communicate. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres said, her voice trembling with awe, I think they're trying to speak." Arya felt her pulse quicken. "Open the channel," she ordered. The screen flickered to life, and the crew watched as the alien beings began to rise from their pods. Their movements were slow, deliberate, like something awakening from an eon-long slumber. They were taller than humans, their bodies elongated and delicate, their skin a pale, almost translucent shade of white. Their eyes, large and unblinking, glowed faintly in the darkness of the ship. They did not speak, at least not in a way the crew could understand. But the rhythmic pulses continued, growing stronger and more complex with each passing second. The beings raised their hands in unison, as if to greet the humans. This is beyond anything we've ever encountered," Lieutenant Markson said, his voice filled with awe. "Captain, we need to be careful. These beings, they may not be as peaceful as they seem." Arya's mind raced. She had trained for first contact scenarios, but nothing in her training could have prepared her for this moment. The Watchers were no longer just a mystery to study, they were a tangible, living presence, with a consciousness of their own. And they were watching them. "Keep the communication open," Arya said, her voice steady but cautious. "We need to find out what they want. If they're hostile, we need to know now." As the beings moved toward the center of their vessel, the pulsing energy seemed to intensify. The lights on the Aetheris flickered for a moment, as if responding to the force emanating from the ancient ship. Then, without warning, a deep, low hum resonated from the ship's core, a sound that seemed to reverberate through the very fabric of space. Arya's breath caught in her throat. The hum wasn't just a sound, it was a frequency. A message. One that the ship's systems could detect but the human ear could not hear. "Captain, the energy readings are off the charts," Lieutenant Torres warned. "It's like they're resonating with the ship. We don't know what's going to happen next." Suddenly, the screen went dark. A sharp gasp echoed across the bridge. The crew's eyes flicked to their consoles, but nothing appeared, no signals, no data. Just an ominous, unnatural void. For a moment, it felt as if time itself had stopped. "Report," Arya demanded, her voice rising. "What's happening? Where are they?" The silence was broken by a sharp, echoing sound, something like a voice, but distorted, incomprehensible. The beings had disappeared from the view screen, and now the entire ship seemed to be trembling. A strange energy flowed through the ship's corridors, as though the Watchers had somehow linked their minds to the Aetheris. The transmission returned, this time, with a voice. A deep, resonant tone filled the bridge. The words were alien, their meaning entirely unintelligible. But the tone, it carried an unmistakable weight. Arya's heart raced as she tried to decipher the alien message, her mind spinning. She knew that this moment would shape the future of humanity. They were no longer explorers, now, they were part of something far bigger, far older, than they could have ever imagined. And the Watchers were watching them, waiting for their response.
The resonance of the alien voice filled the bridge, its vibrations almost palpable, a force that pressed against the minds of the Aetheris crew. The language was unlike anything they had ever encountered, its cadence was both ancient and unsettling, filled with deep tones that seemed to reverberate in their bones. Despite the incomprehensible words, there was no mistaking the urgency in the message. The Watchers were reaching out to them. But what did they want? "Captain," Lieutenant Markson said, his voice tight with uncertainty, "the ship's systems are responding to the signal. It's not just auditory, it's manipulating the Aetheris's energy fields. I can't control the power output." Arya's brow furrowed. "What do you mean? What's happening?" Markson's hands flew over the console, his eyes wide with alarm. "It's like the ship's entire energy system is being redirected. I can't explain it, but we're being pulled in by some kind of force." It's not gravitational, but it's definitely magnetic in nature. The Aetheris is moving toward them, Captain. On its own. Can we stop it? Arya asked, her voice calm despite the rising tension. Markson's voice cut off as the ship shuddered, the hull groaning under the strain. It's too strong. Whatever this force is, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered. The engines aren't responding. The crew braced themselves as the Aetheris slowly began to drift toward the ancient vessel, its course no longer under their control. It was as though the Watchers had taken hold of them, guiding, pulling, testing. Arya felt her chest tighten as the ship moved closer to the alien structure. The looming presence of the Watchers was now undeniable. She knew they had crossed a threshold, a line that separated humanity's role as explorers from its role as subjects in a far larger cosmic drama. The Watchers had come to Earth before, had waited for centuries, perhaps millennia, and now they had found the humans. The test had begun. Status report on the Watchers, Arya ordered, her gaze locked on the view screen. Lieutenant Torres was monitoring the readings carefully. They're not responding to our presence. They've gone still again, just as they were when they first emerged. But the signal is constant, almost as if they're waiting for us to make a move. Arya nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. The Watchers had awakened for a reason, and humanity was the reason. They had been called here, to this moment, to face an ancient and incomprehensible test. But the question remained, what kind of test? Were they being judged? Or was this an invitation to something more? The ship continued to drift forward, its trajectory unchanged. Every member of the crew knew the risk. They were headed into the heart of something far more powerful and ancient than anything they had ever encountered. The Aetheris was now trapped in the grip of the Watchers' energy, powerless to resist. They were at their mercy. Then, the voice returned. This time, the sound was more urgent, more insistent. The tone of the message grew faster, sharper, as if the Watchers were becoming impatient. The words were still incomprehensible, but there was a rhythm to it, a pattern of sound that felt like a pulse beneath the crew's skin. Lieutenant Torres leaned forward, analyzing the signal. Captain, I think it's a challenge. The pattern, it's repeating itself in ways that suggest we're being asked to respond, to engage somehow. Arya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. The Watchers weren't speaking to them in a conventional way, they were speaking through their very presence, their power, and now their message was growing clearer. They were testing humanity's will, intelligence, and resolve. We need to respond, Arya said, her voice firm. Prepare the crew for first contact protocols. This is no longer about exploration. This is about proving humanity's worth. Her mind raced as she considered the implications. The Watchers weren't just offering knowledge, they were offering something much more significant. Power. Understanding. A place in the cosmos, a partnership, perhaps even a legacy. But they weren't giving it freely. Humanity had to earn it. With a deep breath, Arya turned to Markson. Divert all power to the main thrusters. We need to break free from the pull. Full manual override. We're already at maximum, Markson replied, his hands dancing over the controls. It's not working. It's like they've neutralized our engines. We're going nowhere without their permission. Arya's mind clicked into overdrive. The crew had studied alien technologies, patterns, and the intricacies of extraterrestrial communication for years. But this was beyond anything they could have predicted. Yet, instinct told her that this wasn't about brute force, it was about understanding the Watchers. It was a puzzle. And if they could solve it, they might just unlock something that would change humanity's place in the universe forever. Torres, can we decipher their signal? Arya asked. Is there any way to break it down? Torres worked quickly, her fingers flying over the console. The signal, it's not just sound or energy. It's a form of quantum communication. If we match the pattern exactly, we might be able to establish a link with them. Arya took a deep breath. The crew had trained for first contact, but this was no ordinary encounter. Do it. I want to connect with them. We need to show them that we understand. This is our test. The crew fell silent as Torres initiated the procedure, running a series of complex algorithms designed to mirror the pulse of the Watcher's signal. The tension on the bridge was palpable as they waited, their minds stretching to the limits of understanding. And then, a breakthrough. A series of tones echoed through the ship's communication system, harmonizing with the alien pulse in ways that sent a shiver down Arya's spine. The ship stopped its forward drift. The energy field released its grip. The Watchers had responded. The screen flared to life, and the crew saw the figures once more, hovering before the Aetheris, now in full motion. The beings' eyes glowed brighter than before, their forms radiant with the strange energy of the ship. They were watching them, not with hostility, but with curiosity. A new transmission came through. This time, it wasn't just sound. It was a visual display, a holographic image, projecting a series of geometric symbols, patterns that twisted and turned in ways that no human mind could easily grasp. But the meaning was clear. They were offering humanity a choice. A challenge had been met, and now the Watchers were waiting for the answer. The test had begun. And humanity's response would shape the future of the species.
The Aetheris remained suspended in space, caught in the pull of the Watcher's alien energy. The crew sat in stunned silence, their eyes fixed on the display showing the intricate symbols and geometric patterns now projected before them. The beings, those towering, translucent figures, hovered at the edges of the ship, their large, glowing eyes unblinking, waiting. Arya's mind raced. The Watchers had not attacked, had not shown aggression. Instead, they had presented a puzzle, a challenge, an opportunity. Humanity stood on the precipice of something monumental. What they faced now was more than a test of intelligence or capability. It was a test of their very essence. The Watchers were offering something, but the question was, what would they ask in return? Was this a gift, or a trap? Captain, Lieutenant Torres spoke, her voice taut with wonder and uncertainty. The patterns they're sending, it's like an invitation. They want us to engage with them, to solve this, whatever it is. But we're running out of time. If we don't respond, they may take this as a refusal. Arya exhaled slowly, her thoughts momentarily drifting back to Earth. She thought of the billions of people who had looked up at the stars, wondering if humanity would ever reach out and find something beyond the reach of their knowledge. Now, here she was, standing on the verge of uncovering something that could redefine humanity's place in the universe. But that didn't make the decision any easier. She had to choose carefully. Can we decode the message fully? Arya asked. How close are we to understanding the symbols? Torres worked quickly, her fingers moving across the console. We're almost there, Captain. The structure is fractal in nature. It seems like it's not just a visual code, but a form of higher dimensional logic. It's complicated, but I think we can break it down. Lieutenant Markson was also focused, his brow furrowed as he studied the readings. I'm detecting a pulse within the signal. It's rhythmic. Like it's trying to synchronize with us. It's not just data, it's almost as if they're testing our ability to adapt. Our response to their pattern could be the key. A surge of determination filled Arya as she took in the gravity of the situation. The Watchers were giving them a chance to prove themselves. But what did they want to see? That humanity could adapt? That they could comprehend the vast, incomprehensible forces that governed the universe? Was this truly a test of intellect or something deeper, something more intrinsic? Arya turned to face the crew, her gaze sweeping over them. This is it. This is humanity's moment. We can't afford to hesitate. She took a deep breath, the weight of the decision pressing down on her shoulders. She knew that whatever choice they made here would have consequences, not just for them, but for all of humanity. The Watchers had shown that they had the power to shape reality itself. Could humanity step up and meet them on equal footing? "We'll respond," she said finally. "We'll match their pattern." Torres's eyes locked with Aria's. "Are you sure, Captain? If we match their signal, if we synchronize with them, it could bring us to a place we don't fully understand. There's no going back." Aria nodded. "I know. But it's the only way. We have to take the risk. Humanity's future is at stake." With those final words, Torres and Markson went to work, synchronizing their ship systems with the strange energy pulsing from the Watcher's vessel. Every movement, every decision had to be perfect. An error would mean failure. Time seemed to slow as they worked, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the Aetherus' systems and the steady pulse of the Watcher's transmission. Each passing second was filled with tension, and the crew felt as though they were on the edge of something monumental. Then, as the final step in the process was completed, the ship resonated. There was a sound, a deep harmonic wave, like the universe itself was speaking. The pulse of the Watcher's signal began to synchronize perfectly with the Aetherus' energy fields. For a brief moment, the crew felt a strange connection, as though the ship itself was no longer just a machine but a living entity, its essence intertwined with the Watcher's power. It was as if the stars themselves had shifted, aligning into a new, unprecedented configuration. And then, the screen flared to life once again. This time, it wasn't just symbols, it was a vision. The Watcher's figures appeared before the crew, their forms shifting in a fluid dance of light and shadow. Their eyes glowed brighter, as if they had become more tangible. And in the midst of their presence, the Aetherus was no longer alone. The vastness of space had opened up in front of them. What they saw was nothing like the quiet, cold expanse they had known. A massive cosmic city, towering structures of unknown materials, roads of light stretching across distant galaxies. The very fabric of space seemed to warp and fold, revealing realms beyond comprehension. Aria's breath caught in her throat. This was a glimpse of something far beyond their understanding, a civilization, perhaps, or something even greater. The Watchers were showing them the future. The next step. The image shifted. The city was now shown as it once was, full of life, brimming with beings of countless forms. These beings were the Watchers' predecessors, their minds intertwined in a vast network of knowledge. Then, the vision changed once more. A cataclysm, something had shattered the network, leaving the Watchers as the last of their kind. The message became clear: humanity was being asked to carry the torch. To join the greater cosmic network of knowledge and advancement. The Watchers were not just offering technology or power, they were offering survival. The Watchers had witnessed the end of their own civilization, and now they were extending a hand to humanity, asking them to become part of something much bigger. And then, in one final, simple phrase, the message appeared on the screen. "Will you accept your place among the stars?" The decision lay before Aria. It was no longer a question of intelligence or capability, it was a question of trust, of humanity's willingness to evolve. The Watchers had shown them the way. Now, the choice was theirs. Aria's heart raced as she faced the greatest decision in human history. Would they accept this invitation, take the risk, and become part of the cosmic order? Or would they turn away from the unknown, safe in their isolation, unwilling to step into the vast, uncertain future? The fate of humanity rested in her hands. The silence on the bridge was deafening. Aria's eyes were fixed on the final message from the Watchers, the weight of their question pressing heavily on her mind. Humanity had reached a crossroads, a decision that would not only affect their survival but also define their place in the cosmos forever. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres said quietly, her voice barely a whisper, "this is it. The choice is ours. We either join them, or we return to the stars, alone." Aria took a slow breath, feeling the eyes of her crew on her. They were looking to her, waiting for her to make the impossible decision. She glanced around the bridge, her mind racing. Every corner of her being wanted to leap toward the unknown, to embrace the future that had been presented to them. But the risks were immense. Could humanity truly handle the vast knowledge and power the Watchers had to offer? What would it cost them to join such an ancient, powerful civilization? The Watchers had not asked for a price, at least not in the traditional sense. There were no demands for resources, no threats of annihilation. Yet, Arya couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more beneath the surface of their invitation. The Watchers were offering humanity the stars, but at what cost? The vision of the cosmic city, the alien network of knowledge and life, still lingered in her mind. She thought of Earth, of the struggles, the wars, the division that defined humanity's history. Would they be ready for the responsibility? Or would the power the Watchers offered consume them, as it had consumed their own civilization? Arya's gaze shifted to the crew. They were waiting for her answer, their faces a mix of hope and uncertainty. She could feel the pressure, the weight of history bearing down on her. The future of humanity, the legacy they would leave, was in her hands. "Captain," Markson spoke up, his voice steady but filled with resolve, "I think we're ready. We've always reached for the stars. This is the next step. We don't have to understand everything right now. We just have to trust that we can handle it when we get there." Arya met his gaze. She knew what he was saying. Humanity had always looked up at the stars with wonder and curiosity, driven by the hope that there was more out there. This was no longer just a question of exploration, it was a question of survival, of belonging. The Watchers had given them a path forward, and humanity could not afford to turn away. She nodded, her voice firm. "We accept." The words hung in the air, and in that moment, the tension that had gripped the Aetheris for so long seemed to dissipate. The Watchers' energy field responded immediately, their presence rippling through the ship's systems. The tension in the air was replaced with a hum of understanding, a shared connection between humanity and the Watchers. The ship's energy levels stabilized, and the hum of the cosmic network filled the crew's senses, as though the very fabric of space had begun to open up before them. The beings appeared before them once again, their forms more radiant than before. Their eyes, filled with ancient wisdom, regarded the crew with a sense of approval, even warmth. They had been waiting for this moment, waiting for humanity to choose. Arya felt a strange sense of peace wash over her. The Watchers were not here to conquer or enslave. They were here to guide, to offer a partnership, a shared future. The choice to accept was not a surrender, but a step forward, a chance to build something greater than themselves. Then, a new message flashed across the screen, and this time, it was clear. "Welcome to the greater cosmos. The path is open. We will guide you." With that, the screen flickered, and the vastness of the cosmos unfolded before them. The Aetheris and its crew were no longer isolated travelers in a dark and cold universe, they were now part of something much larger. The Watchers, their ancient race, had found a new purpose in helping humanity take its place among the stars. They were no longer alone. Arya looked out into the infinite expanse before her, feeling a profound sense of awe. The Aetheris had crossed a threshold. It wasn't just a ship any longer, it was a vessel of potential, carrying humanity into a future that defied all imagination. They would no longer simply explore space, they would shape it, understand it, and evolve alongside the Watchers. And as she stood there, staring into the stars, she knew that the journey they had begun was only the beginning. Humanity's place in the greater cosmos had been secured, but it was now up to them to prove that they were worthy of the incredible future they had been given. "Set a course for the stars," Arya said, her voice steady but filled with hope. The crew moved quickly, ready to follow her lead, their hands working with purpose and excitement. The Aetheris' engines hummed to life, powered by a new energy, the energy of the Watchers, of the cosmos itself. Humanity had passed the test. The journey was far from over. And as the Aetheris surged forward into the vast, uncharted unknown, Arya knew one thing for certain: the stars had always been within their reach. Now, they were finally beginning to touch them.